Okay, so first I'm going to take these boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I'm going to fry them in a pan. I might add a little bit of water so that way they don't stick, but I'm not adding any extra grease or anything. There's a little bit of fat on these boneless, skinless chicken thighs, but not a whole lot of fat, because you're taking a lot of the fat off whenever you take that skin off. Skin is the most fattening part of the chicken. Matter of fact, if you eat fried chicken, if you take the skin off, you've reduced almost by half. I remember in the old Weight Watchers system that you could eat a chicken breast at KFC for 10 points, but if you removed all the skin and just ate the chicken breast, it was only 3 points. So that just shows you how much the breading and the skin can add to your calorie count. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to fry them in a pan with just their own fat, and may add a little bit of water. Now I'm going to take some Lowry's seasoning. That's seasoned salt. I like to use this. This is my family's favorite, so I'm going to put some of this on, and you can kind of go heavy on it because we're going to add a little bit of cabbage to this later. So and just make sure you get all the pieces covered, since we're adding cabbage to it later. It's not going to be that big a deal. It's got organic black pepper, and I like to grind it on there because it's a stronger, more pungent taste when you grind your own pepper. It's got a better flavor to it. So I'm going to add some of that on all of it. I'm going to flip them over. Do the same thing on the other side. Ooh. You can see there is some fat on this, so that'll cook off, but it'll also make the cabbage taste better. Fat equals flavor, but we don't want to overdo it since we're on a diet here. That's why we're eating lots of cabbage, because you can really feel like you're full on this. I've got this on a medium heat. If it gets too hot or it looks like it's going to burn, I'll just add some more, or I'll add some water to it. I haven't added any water so far. Okay, I've just left this on medium heat for a while. It's been about 8 minutes. Anyway, I'm going to just keep browning this until it all has this really pretty golden brown to dark brown color. It's okay if it comes off in chunks like that, because we're going to put it in cabbage anyway. So I wanted to have bites in my cabbage through it. It doesn't matter if it breaks apart. I am going to take this chicken out, and any leftover fat that's in there, I'm going to dump that out, so that way I'm not adding that fat to my cabbage. Now if you look down here at the bottom of the pan, you can see that there's some stuff sticking to the bottom. When we put the cabbage in, that's going to break that off. It'll make it, come up into the cabbage. And that stuff has a lot of flavor in it. It's just that caramelization on the bottom of the pan, and we don't want to get rid of that, but we do want to get rid of the fat. So I'm going to cook this until all of it has this golden brown color to medium brown. See, it's still white. I'd like for it all to be a nice brown color. Okay, I changed forks because I always do that whenever I cook with chicken. When you start off with raw, you don't know if there's a little bit of that stuff left at the top of the fork or something like that. So I've changed forks, and I'm picking out the little small pieces that are brown on both sides, and I'm going to throw them into this. I'm going to leave the bigger pieces just to cook a little bit longer. only to make them, you know, have that texture on the outside. I kind of like that. And some people might say, you know, why don't you use chicken breast with this? You can. I just prefer dark meat. My family prefers dark meat over white meat, but I know, you know, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law and all them, they choose white meat over dark meat. I don't know why, but they do. I've always liked the dark meat. It has more flavor if you ask me. So anyway, I'm going to just pick out the ones that look like they're pretty done. And you see that really dark, that brown on the bottom? You don't want that to burn, but it's really good to have that because we're going to get rid of the fat that's on the top that cooked off the chicken. And then we are going to put our cabbage in there, and when we add a little bit of water to it, it'll break that right off. You see these little tiny pieces. They don't need to cook as long. Okay, I drained off about, I'd say, you know, close to a tablespoon of fat off of there. So that's fat that we're not eating, so that's good. I've got the pan back on there, and it's just kind of like dry with the with the brown on the bottom. Now, if you just left this on here, it would burn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my heat up a little bit. Now, I know that sounds like I'm going to burn it, but I'm going to take a cup of water and put it in here, and it'll cook, and that water will be flavored with chicken. And you can even, if you want to scrape the bottom, this isn't really Teflon, it's made of something else. It doesn't come off like Teflon. These are good pans. My favorite pans. But anyway, if you want to scrape it, you can. Anyway, you could just let it kind of cook on its own, and it'll cook all that brown flavoring up into your water. And now I'm going to take my cabbage, put it in right over top of this once this starts to boil. First, I probably should cut up my cabbage. So, okay, I'm going to take this cabbage, and it's just a you know, a small cabbage really. I'm used to a lot bigger than this. So I'm going to cut the bottom off. I can set it flat like that. I'm going to take it, I'm going to cut it in half. I didn't really do a very good job cutting it in half. Or cut it in a third. All the core I left right here. So, since this is a small cabbage, don't have much of a core. When I was a kid, me and my dad would eat the core. So anyway, I just cut a crisscross pattern in it, get that core out. That's kind of hard. You don't want that in your stuff that you're making. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to cut it into slices. And these are about 1/2 inch slices. I'll take this part like that. Set that to the side. Bring this over. You can cut it like at an angle. Go all the way around it. I'm going to get rid of this piece. It's an outer piece anyway. I did take the outer leaves off. They usually are kind of dirty looking and yucky looking, so. Set this to the side. Flip that over. Just because it's easier to cut this way. And there I have the cabbage in sliced pieces. Okay, I've got the cabbage in there. I'm just going to take this fork and break it up a little bit. That way all those, I'm going to mix it in with the juices. Cook this until I hear it frying. I want my cabbage to have a little bit of texture to it. I don't want it to be mushy. So I got to really watch it. And I was kind of going for the Chinese type food style here, where it has, you know how in a lot of your Chinese restaurants, the vegetables have a little crispness to them. Well, that's what I'm going for in this recipe. So hopefully it all turns out good. It's kind of like an experiment for me, so I'll be back. I took my chicken out of the bowl that I had it in to cool off, and so I have little pieces here. I don't have to cut them, but I'm going to try to cut these into chunks. That way whenever you're eating the cabbage, or you could just pull it apart really if it's easier for you, but with some of these bigger pieces I'm going to try to cut them in kind of a strip looking thing. I can actually put these back in to the bowl. I'm going to add these in there later, so that way whenever you're eating your cabbage you have these little bite-sized pieces of meat. It'll make it taste better. Cabbage is really good for you, especially if you're dieting. See how that went into pieces? These little pieces are about where they want to be anyway. Using this bowl, I can put the whole thing in there later to put it in the refrigerator, so saves me. You can see this chicken's all the way cooked through, and it's a little tougher on the outside, and it's got really a lot of flavor because I went heavy on the seasoning. Tastes really good. If you put that in there now, it would take the flavoring that we cooked on the outside of the chicken. So I'm going to save this to right at the end after my cabbage is cooked. And I want my cabbage to have a little bit of crispness to it, but not a lot. I'll take you over there to that. You can see how that's going. So you still have some liquid in the bottom. Now my cabbage is starting to come apart a lot better. You could eat a decent amount of this and still not gain a bit of weight. You couldn't eat it 24 hours a day, but you can eat enough to where you feel really full. So I'm going to let that cook. Okay, this is cooked down quite a bit. You can hear it frying on the bottom a little bit. I'm just stirring it up. I may have to add a little bit more water because some of these pieces aren't cooked as much as I like. I'd like for it all to look a little bit translucent. And it's almost there, so hopefully I don't have to add any water to it. So I'm going to give it about another minute or two like this. I don't want it to burn, definitely, because that would ruin the whole cabbage. So, be right back. Okay, I tasted it, and it's perfect. It's the right crunchiness. There's just a little bit of crunch to it. It's really well cooked. It doesn't have a whole lot of strong flavor. It tastes, you know, you can taste the cabbage and you can taste a little bit of the salt, but remember we added a lot of seasoning to our chicken, so I'm just going to take the chicken, I'm going to dump it in there. Stir it in, and you can see there's no water anymore at the bottom. And I'm just going to cover it up. I'm going to turn it off, cover it up, and it's ready to go. In just a minute, I'll get some in a plate and give it a taste. Should be pretty good because I tasted the chicken already and I tasted the cabbage already, and it was all pretty tasty. So I'm going to turn it off and put a lid on it. Okay, here it is. I'm going to try it. Get a piece of chicken in there. It's really good. And really hot. I should have waited for a few minutes before it cooled off so it could cool off. It's the perfect texture. It's exactly what I wanted. A little crispier, just so it'd be different than normal cooked cabbage. And I like to add a lot of cabbage to my diet whenever I'm on trying to lose weight on a low-fat diet. So it's really good.